All right, thanks for joining everybody. My name is, excuse me, Katie Vukovic. I am National Channel Manager for Telarus. You have joined the Telarus and CBTS webinar on accelerating retail growth in these times. Along with me, I have Matt Douglas. He runs our engineering group in the channel. And Matt's going to take us through what some retailers have done to date, as well as you know, some of the things he's seeing out there to help retailers once everybody gets back on track. So Matt, go ahead. Thank you.
Fantastic.
And one more thing, Q&A is on the right-hand side. If you'd like to send any questions, don't hesitate to type those in on the right. And as Matt goes through, I'll interrupt him and ask those questions to him. Sorry, Matt, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Katie. My name is Matt Douglas. I run our solutions engineering group here in the channel. So I and my sales engineers are the folks that you would engage if you needed some help kind of exploring some of our solutions, et cetera. I thought we'd kind of give you an overview a little bit of CBTS just to make sure you understand what kind of the breadth of some of the managed services that we bring to the channel here, and then do some whiteboarding, give you some actual use cases of some successes we've had and what we've done with some of those things. So when you're talking to, you know, to us here, we're part of CBB on the New York Stock Exchange. And where that really came from was Cincinnati Bell 140 years ago. In fact, it's still us, still there. So in fact, we also bought Hawaiian Telecom a couple of years ago. So we, you know, half of our business, if you would, is being the phone company in a particular geographic region, you know, delivering 911, mission critical services, et cetera. This comes into play quite a bit as well in the retail space, because one of the things we talk about is that reliably delivering and being creatively delivering voice services is in our DNA. We've been doing this a long time. Now, you're talking to CBTS. Katie and I work for CBTS, which also, by the way, the Onyx brand in Canada. But we deliver all these services we're going to talk about all across North America. Now, CBTS started about 30 years ago from Cincinnati Bell first. Started as a regional VAR, you know, selling routers and switches, these kinds of things. But over time now has grown to be a North American CLEC, a phone company, and an IT services company. We do about $1 billion a year, of which about 50% of that is all in managed services, and specifically some of the services we're going to talk about here today. So we've been around a long time, doing voices in our DNA. Now, we are a big Cisco partner. Been a Cisco Gold partner for 20 years. You know, do about 150 million or so a year with Cisco. Spend a lot of time in that practice, you know, almost 200 engineers, almost 1,400 certifications. We've been lucky enough to win, you know, a number of awards through the years, and that happens every year to us. In fact, just a couple months ago, we were the first service provider, master service provider to kind of put all these together, these certifications into an offering. But in a lot of ways, why? What's the big deal? You know, there's a lot of places to buy Cisco technology out there. This really is the reason why. And it's that we have taken a group of services, two of the pillars on the left here, if you would, Cisco services, and kind of turned this into Cisco as a service. You know, in the past, if you had a customer that wanted to explore Cisco solutions, you were out of the revenue stream. That business would go to a local VAR, they'd buy some equipment CapEx, maybe there'd be some professional services, but there was none of the, you know, 25% a month monthly commissions for a managed service. So we've taken a number of services, you know, Cisco services, and turned them into, you know, monthly recurring revenue for you. Now we've been doing this a while. It started first with Cisco Call Manager. We've been delivering Cisco Call Manager now for almost 18 years. And we've got customers like the state of Ohio, we do 50,000 hosted Cisco phones a month for. GE, we do 40,000 hosted Cisco phones a month. State of Indiana, 10,000, some hospitals in the 10 and 20,000 range. So Cisco Call Manager all the way down to, you know, 500 phones, right? BroadSoft as well. And we're going to talk about BroadSoft today, our BroadSoft practice, because that we do that with a thing called key system emulation that's very big in the retail space. And we've been doing that for 16 years. I assume many of you heard the BroadSoft name. They say somewhere around 40 to 45% of all the hosted phones sold every month in the United States are on a BroadSoft platform of some kind. We use them, AT&T, Verizon, Nextiva, Comcast, kind of you name it. When Cisco bought BroadSoft a couple of years ago, this was a big, big boon for us because we'd already had these two mature practices. And we also deliver anything to do in the Cisco contact center side, either their traditional UCCX or UCCE offerings, or their new WebEx contact center that they got when they purchased BroadSoft. And then the entire kind of suite of WebEx experience, whether that's, the WebEx rooms and boards, meetings, Teams clients, those kinds of things. So really for us, and we're going to talk about how we have used some of these in retail, is anything to do with, the Cisco name of telephony, collaboration, WebEx, et cetera. We can now deliver this as a monthly recurring revenue, paying you the kinds of commissions you'd expect out of other UCaaS or CCaaS providers. A big component of what we do in the retail space then is also the Meraki Stack. I don't know if any of you here on the WebEx have seen the Meraki Stack, but basically Meraki first started with access points. I think going back, 20 years ago or something. Cisco bought them about 10 years ago, and they have expanded, particularly in the last 10 years, to have a whole line of firewalls, unified threat management, and this is also kind of an SD-WAN light box. PoE switches, access, PoE for layer 2, layer 3, a whole line of access points and a whole line of cameras. The challenge with this in the past, though, was kind of going back to the same CapEx purchase. Customers would have to buy it CapEx, try and figure out the right size box or device they wanted. When they bought it, they'd own that boat anchor, if you would, for 5 years. They'd have to manage licensing for it because in this platform, if the license expires, it goes dead in 30 days. And so we've turned this all into a flexible monthly service, right? Where we can, allow somebody, let's say we put a particular device in, 6 months later, they want to upgrade because they've been, expanding there, or they've got 20 locations and they want a downturn clause for a couple of them that they think they may have to close next year. We've taken all that worry of right sizing it, being flexible, upgrade, uploading, upgrading kind of capabilities, license manage it, all that, and turned it into a service. And we've got customers like Barnes and Noble. We do 600 stores for them. We're in the middle, I can't name the name because we're under NDA right now, but a 3,000 site retail chain that we're about 1,300 sites into right now that got a Meraki MX at the edge, PoE switches, and then 6 Cisco phones hanging off our BroadSoft platform. So that's been a very successful part of the retail story. We also have a multi-platform SD-WAN practice. Particularly, we were VeloClouds. We started this about 4 years ago. Put a big RFP out and built a big test lab and tested everybody. Silver Peak, Talari, Versa, VeloCloud, Viptela, you name it. VeloCloud was the big winner technically and still is in the marketplace. If you look at the last Gartner or Frost and Sullivan, they're absolutely the number one out there by orders of magnitude over some of the other folks. And we actually were VeloCloud's North American Partner of the Year last year. We're the reigning North American Partner of the Year. So VeloCloud's got some very unique capabilities around forward error correction, being able to actually fix packet loss for things like voice across the internet. We've actually, both in the lab and out in the field, proven that we can deliver voice reliably up to 30% packet loss and still have a phone call. So VeloCloud's been a cornerstone of our most kind of a complicated or application-centric SD-WAN deployments. We use Meraki and its SD-WAN Lite a lot. Again, we talked about kind of retail store of the future or branch of the future. And then we are a Viptela shop too, because we're big on the Cisco shop, side. So, but basically kind of the two key, components there are VeloCloud and Meraki. And then one of the things we're starting to see, and maybe you guys are in the field as well, is this whole move to cloud security. And we have, of course, always been a Cisco shop, and we'll sell their Cisco umbrella product. Well, as we started investigating some of the options out there for add this into our managed service, we looked at Palo, because we're a big Palo reseller, actually. We sell a lot of Palo today. We looked at Palo's Prisma. We looked at Zscaler. We've got some Zscaler deployments we've done. But Checkpoint for us really stood out as a next generation cloud offering that had the full suite of kind of UTM in the cloud, SSL decryption, and the normal, web filtering and IPS, IDS sandboxing, and also included a VPN client. And it also allows us to build custom applications and either price per megabit or by user, which is a lot more flexible than some of the Zscalers or Palo Alto Prisma. So as your customer might get into some cloud security, we can talk a little bit about some of that. So the last thing before I kind of want to do some whiteboard, I want to show a use cases. I just want to let you know that when we install these solutions here we're talking about, it always starts with, pre-sales. We try and take a very consultative approach when we get in with a customer. Sometimes we're not the right fit. I mean, Katie and I were literally on a phone call about 6 months ago. We're about 20 minutes into it thinking VeloCloud's going to be a solution. And he gave me a couple of requirements and we're like, you know what, you don't need us, you need Big Leaf. So, we also want to be the right fit. So pre-sales is a big part for us. If we're lucky enough to get business, we assign project management teams to work with, maybe your project management, if you have that in your organization, or the customer's project management or third parties. We assign subject matter experts from the particular kind of pillars that we're using for this solution. And when we do this, we build a concept we call a network design document, kind of the Bible or the blueprint for how we're going to do the installation. We've been fortunate enough, I talked about us being VeloCloud's North American Partner of the Year. Particularly in the last 6 months, Katie and I have been part of a couple of deals where we'd come into somebody that maybe was, had a 20-site deployment of SD-WAN, in this case VeloCloud. They were like 3 sites into it and it was just going terribly. And they pulled away, got out of the contract because it was voided as far as they were concerned. And we came in and picked up the pieces on this. And so this process of project management, subject matter experts, this NDD, and then on-site install and repair, we're very serious in how we deploy these projects and want to get them right from the very beginning and do them in a timely manner. And then everything we're talking about here is all 24/7 onshore support. It's all free moves, adds, and changes. We don't charge people for configuration changes down the road. And everything we do here as well as we support co-management. So, all right, let me just give you a little bit of example of a customer that we had by the name of Donato's. Donato's is a 150 location pizza chain. Right? And when they came to us, and this is an example actually kind of using everything from the 4 pillars, when they came to us, they had a normal headquarters data center, with point of sale system. But then they had these stores, right? And the stores over time had just kind of devolved into a whole bunch of disparate equipment, different routers, switches. Some stores had a guest Wi-Fi experience, others didn't. One of the key things that we're finding in retail is that retail used to look at a store or a branch as nothing but kind of a cost anchor. They would put as little money as possible into that infrastructure. That's changing because everything that's happening now, whether it's IoT, digital signage, video training in a store. I'm going to talk about Whataburger here in a minute. We worked with 700 Whataburger stores, and it's gotten to the point where Whataburger can't deliver a hamburger without being connected to the internet. Their systems are so tied together. So what we're finding out is that retail is starting to now relook at their technology stack in a location or a store as an enabler as opposed to just a cost center. So this particular opportunity, Donato's came to us and first that they had already figured out their connectivity. They were going to bring their own cable, a contract, and they were going to bring their own 4G LTE. So whoever won this had to use this connectivity. The second thing that they wanted, right, was that they wanted 6 telephones, 6 UCaaS phones. Well, that's no big deal, right? Everybody sells UCaaS all the time. But what was a big deal and still is a big deal is they actually wanted this in key system. I don't know if any of you kind of, when you are either familiar with key system or maybe worked in a retail environment or worked for a company where you would see like lines 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on every phone. And when you talk to somebody on a line and you put them on hold, it showed up on everybody's phone blinking so that you could just scream at Bob or Sally, hey, Bob's on 1, Sally's on 2, right? You could scream to your coworker, somebody's on line 1 or 2. You could go anywhere and pick that up, which is considerably different than the concept of the normal PBX of parking a call and then having to remember the right codes to pull it down. That's kind of hard to do in a minimum wage retail environment. So key system emulation, actually, you can't go to the ring centrals and the 8x8s of the world and do that. So we've taken our UCAS core, right, in particular our BroadSoft core, and built a robust key system environment. Also built it very inexpensively. We're talking about, I'll come back to that on the Whataburger side. We can do it very inexpensively. The other part 2B, if you would, about this is they wanted to queue calls. They had times where on a busy Friday or Saturday night, they would get more than 6 phone calls down here. So we built a call queue per store where we could hold the 7th through 15th caller. And when somebody got off the phone, we could deliver that down to that next line, whatever that was. So being able to take our BroadSoft core, build key system, okay, like they're used to, like the normal old key systems you get, and then put a call queue on top of that. This is some of our strengths. The other part is that they had wasn't a consistent guest experience, right? So Meraki APs, right? We've got the Meraki Stack right there. We're going to put a Meraki AP, 1 or 2 in the store, kind of depending on the size. And we're going to build a guest SSID for that. But as part of that, we put in there rate limiting, because you don't want somebody, you want to be nice to a customer, but you don't want somebody coming in and tearing up my bandwidth. Right? We also put on their web filtering. Okay? And then we also built a sign-on terms and conditions page that carried their brand through. So yes, they're given free services, but they wanted to make sure they knew who was doing that, and they wanted to control that experience there. Fourth thing about that was they needed a new stack in there of LAN infrastructure. So we put PoE, managed PoEs in there, and then we put a managed Meraki back here as well, which gave a lot of the features that we're using on the rate limiting web filtering. And then the fifth thing about this was they had to have assurance about delivering their money call. They're literally 60% of their business is still somebody dialing in and talking to somebody at the store. Okay. So we showed them how we could take and put VeloCloud at the edge right here. And in front of our, we have our voice pops around the country. In front of our voice pops are VeloCloud gateways. And those VeloCloud gateways basically are constantly building up tunnels, right, across this. Let me do it a different color. They're constantly building tunnels between our cores here, okay? And so we showed them how that you could be on a revenue generating call in the middle of a Friday, right, and completely disconnect that cable, and that phone call is going to roll over to the backup 4G LTE, keep that call up, and we're still making money. We're taking care of their revenue generating, money generating calls for them. Now, the other thing about VeloCloud too, a lot of people don't know, is that let's say even that for whatever reason, we don't have 4G LTE today. It went bad, okay? And in this situation, VeloCloud can even fix packet loss. Let me clean this up a little bit here. So let's say we're down to 1 cable connection here, okay? And we're talking to either one of our gateways, and we're on the phone to a customer, and packets here are leaving our front door 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But by the time they get to our front door, we got packet 1, we're missing 2, 3 and 4 out of order, we're missing 5, and we got 6. We got a pretty bad phone call. VeloCloud's actually able here to start to duplicate that stream on either end. Let's say it's duplicated here from the store. Still got packet loss here. We had some problems on this cable connection. Maybe it's at 5% packet loss. Maybe we're missing packet 1, but we did get 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 5, and we're missing 6. We add all those together, and we now have a happy phone call. And we've kept that dollar, that money coming in the store, even if we didn't have a second connection, or even if both of those connections were, let's say, in a 5% packet loss. Maybe our cable was bad today, and even the 4G LTE wasn't working so well. So this idea that we could combine all of these components together, right, to deliver for them application voice, they're revenue generating, deliver the key system to it. We also built rules for their point of sale to come back here, right? And then because VeloCloud also has cloud gateways out here, we also built rules to reliably get them out to, sitting at a PC here and even getting out to their Office 365. Now, this, by the way, we did this whole stack right here for less than $400 a month. So these are the parts and pieces where when you get a hold of, a retail customer, where are they kind of in their journey about kind of the guest Wi-Fi experience? Where are they in the journey about a new phone system, but do they need key system emulation? And what are the components here that maybe they do need VeloCloud's enhanced because we can fix packet loss and deliver calls more reliably? Now, some customers, I mentioned like that 3,000 location food chain that we're doing right now, they've got an MX at the edge and they were okay with that. So that's just fine as well. Let me give you kind of as a last example, something that we're kind of proud of with Whataburger. Maybe some of you heard the Whataburger brand down south. Whataburger has 700 stores. Right? Got a headquarters over here. Let me redraw that. Got a headquarters over here with 400 employees, and they've got a Cisco call manager here. Right? And then they've got 700 stores. And now at each of the stores, by the way, they today have high availability pair of cradle points. So a cradle point high availability pair right here. Now, when we got to them, right, they had every store at 2 POTS lines coming in here. Those 2 POTS lines, by the time you averaged all their costs, they're spending, let's call it $120 a store for those 2 POTS lines to come into a small phone system to ring a couple of phones, right? Expensive, not easy to manage. They've got no reporting, right? Because they don't know what happens in either of these stores. They can't go back to the bills. All these bills are to the local phone company, right? And they've got no disaster recovery. It's not so easy if you lose a store or a line just to get on the phone and call a phone company and automatically, take a line somewhere else, things like that. So we came into them and we said, get rid of those POTS lines. We're going to port those numbers into our UCaaS cloud. Again, the BroadSoft, in this case, still BroadSoft platform. We're going to port them into our UCaaS platform. Now, the key system emulation we do, in this case, they only needed 2 phones. They needed a desktop phone, right? And they needed a wireless phone. In this case, we used a Yealink. The Yealink's got a very nice wireless phone. When I talked about our pricing here, we ended up with them. This is our standard pricing. It's not we end up with them. We charge $20 per store for this configuration. And this per store includes the dial tone up to 6 lines. Okay, so you can be talking to 6 people at a time on any phone. So 6 lines. It includes voicemail, and it includes enhanced reporting, right? And then includes, of course, a full web interface and DR capability. So now suddenly, for $20 a store, they can have a 6-line system, voicemail, enhanced reporting, etc. Now, in their case, they decided to buy these phones. So they literally just have $20 a store cost. But if instead they wanted to rent that, we would rent something like a Cisco 7841, let's call it, at $6 a month. And that Yealink telephone at $10 a month. So even if they wanted to rent this whole thing, they're at $36 a month compared to what they were paying for 120. And as again, the 120, they didn't have 6 lines being able to talk at a time. They didn't have a voicemail. They didn't have enhanced reporting. They didn't have DR. Now, what we were particularly proud of on this Whataburger situation was that they did have 700 stores. First of all, we did this with them in a proof of concept and did it on an email. So we set up 10 stores for them literally on an email, a letter of intent by an email that we think, if this test out, we're going to do it. Now we build a relationship with them for a couple months, but their legal process internally with contracts, their team told us it takes forever. And we're like, we don't care. We feel so strong about this, we're going to do it on a letter of intent. So we put 10 stores in. We get that done. It works the way they want it to. They wanted 700 stores installed in 10 weeks, and we did it. We literally were importing and installing 16 stores a day. Okay. Now, the other part of this, not only did we kind of give them these feature sets, give them a price point, deploy it on time, but they wanted to enable extension to extension dialing. They wanted to be able to pick up a phone here and dial a 4-digit extension because they had a number of call centers that these people who employ here would come back at. In the past, these were all toll calls, right? So it's real easy for us in this situation to simply then, in fact, we actually used VeloCloud. We took a VeloCloud box behind their firewall. Of course, they're connected to the internet, right? Connected then to our gateways, our VeloCloud gateways in there. So we first built up this private connection, if you would, across the internet so that we've got, private IPs going across this. It's all IPsec encrypted, and we're able to give a quality of service for this voice call from our core down to their call manager. And then because all these phones are also registered in the same enterprise, we were able to, I forget the exact number. I think we were told we set up 200 concurrent calls here for $10 a call. So for $2,000 a month, we enabled whatever kind of extension to extension unlimited dialing they needed between these stores back and forth. So these are some of the things here. We're about a half an hour, kind of 25 minutes into our presentation, but these are some of the things that when we go back and take a look at, our core capabilities, the kind of 4 pillars, if you would, of services that we bring to the channel here, we excel. We're not a Nextiva. We don't have a website to put a credit card in and buy a single phone. What we are is when you've got an opportunity that you think needs some white glove treatment, needs some kind of deep sales engineering, some custom design, even if it's one site, but we certainly on the retail side excel at being able to enable multiple retail locations, for a variety of different kind of focusing on the business outcomes they're trying to get to. One last thing I want to add here, and Katie, you may have some comments or some questions, but I do want to also talk about when we're talking about this idea of this platform here. And the other thing that this is enabling on the retail space, I talked about this Meraki gear that's sitting down here. I didn't mean to erase that, excuse me. Talk about this Meraki gear that's sitting down here, okay? And particularly the guest Wi-Fi experience. One of the things that people are also starting to look at, and it's actually starting to change the sale or kind of the shareholders involved with a new store technology, is Wi-Fi marketing. And so Meraki in particular has got an API, and we expose this for free to any of our customers, that whenever a user is coming down here on a cell phone or whatever device, logging in, that's being kept track of by Meraki, and events can go down an API. And so there's a number of third parties, companies like Purple, Skyfi, there's a bunch of them that have also started working with retail marketing organizations saying, listen, if you're going to build an application, let's make that application, let's put the infrastructure in the green there that makes us aware when a cell phone comes in so that we can drive offers, keep track of these kinds of things. So there's also, even if you don't do that, there's some great analytics sitting in Meraki that'll tell you how many people walked by your place, came in, logged in, these kinds of things. So the other thing that we're starting to find is not only is kind of, again, the store, the technology stack from an IT perspective, people are thinking as an enabler, but now even marketing departments are starting to now dream of what are all the things I could do digitally if I did have control of every single phone call, you know, at the Wi-Fi experience, et cetera. That 3,000 location chain that we talked about. Oh, excuse me. No, this is Donato's. Donato's right here. Let me get rid of this right here. So I talked about with the fact that we've got this reporting out of here. So before we got to Donato's, they had the same thing. They had 150 stores of just a bunch of telephone lines everywhere. When you pulled back and got reporting out of BroadSoft, we gave them our kind of enhanced reporting, which enhanced reporting will actually tell you even kind of cradle to grave. The caller comes in, where it goes, how long, the whole thing. They've actually identified right now, they're working on about a $1 to $3 million a year problem. They believe that when they looked at every single call coming in across their stores and where the abandonment rates were, they've realized that they probably have a problem down here of people not being nice enough on the phone or not answering the phone quick enough and people abandoning. So the other part of this in the retail environment is we talk about this platform now, if I kind of clean up some of this stuff around here, we talk about this platform from a voice perspective becomes an enabler of other technologies, other data, disaster recovery, the ability to take a look at all the calls across your organization. We're also even working with Donato's now where they've said to us, you know what, we've got a third-party organization down here that is building an AI application. They think someday that when you call in, they won't even deliver the call to a store. They're going to deliver it either to their own call center, okay, or to an AI application that can actually take an order and understand the difference between pepperoni and pepperoni. And so we've been working with them because every call is coming into this enabling platform across their whole organization. We're starting to take then a group of calls, on a random basis, and they can set that on, 10% a day, a store, whatever, and giving them over a test call center, giving them over to test AI, et cetera. So we believe kind of the day has come that this used to be, this platform was nothing more than a cost center, that now people are looking at it as an enabler for a lot of things, and even a lot of things past the normal telephony or the normal guest Wi-Fi experience. Katie, any thoughts or questions, anything I missed here?
Yeah, Matt, I have one. How many retail locations is the minimum now?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Minimum number of retail sites?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So you're right. I'm talking about that as though, we're talking about hundreds or whatever. We'll do this stack down to one location. Everything that we talked about here today, even if, let's say, you've got a customer and they need one MX, right? Or you've got a customer and they need an MX and an access point. Or you got a customer, when it's 20 phones or 50 phones and you think we might be a good fit because we need to design some custom applications. Yes, we'll do any of the stuff down to one location.
Thanks, Matt. And there's also some questions around, excuse me, how regular hosted voice is quoted out versus retail key system emulation. Can you explain the differences in those and how it helps save customers like Whataburger?
Sure, absolutely. So one of the beauties of BroadSoft, again, we were a BroadSoft, we've been doing this about 16 years, way before Cisco ever bought them, is it can provide really two systems, either a typical PBX system, which you would think of as kind of the normal Ring Central 8x8. And when I say PBX, what I mean is that each telephone has an extension. Each phone's got an extension. Each phone has got a DID, its own telephone number, right? Each phone's got its own voicemail. This is the normal knowledge worker kind of setup, right? So that, this is Bob and this is Sally and, this is John. That environment, that's great for an office environment. That's how our phones are set up. It's how probably most everybody's phones set up here, because that's what we typically are as knowledge workers, right? Now, as knowledge workers, we can still be part of hunt groups where a main number for a hunt group rings multiple phones. That's normal. We could be a knowledge worker where we're part of instead, this being a call center, or we got an auto attendant and you press 1 for Bob and 2 for Sally, whatever. That's kind of the normal PBX environment. Key system, though, is completely, and the problem with that in a retail environment is imagine that even if you had, let me see if I can clear this up a little. Let's say that this is a retail environment, and I take and build a hunt group and put the main number in a hunt group, and I set it to ring everybody's phone, right? So a call comes in to order a pizza, and Bob picks it up on his phone. But he's up front, he's busy, and he needs to check with the manager. It's a catering order. He's got to check with the manager. He's got to put up that caller on hold on his phone, and the manager back there in the store can't pick that up off of his phone, right? It's not very easy. You can do a call park if you want, but then you got to remember a code to bring it down. It's just not easy to put a bunch of people in a fast-moving environment, which retail can be. So retail typically enjoys, we talked about each phone has, we can do more than this, but this is pretty typical, 6 line appearances. And every phone's got 6 line appearances. And so when a call comes in, customer comes in, the first one we put them on line 1, second one goes on line 2, the third one goes on line 3. And so 3 different people could be talking, in this case, 6 different people talking. And now I put somebody on hold. I got my catering order. I put them on hold on line 1, and now it's blinking on every single phone. And so now you can walk around, ask questions. I want to get back to Bob, and I'm on one of the catering order. I just hit the line 1 button. I don't have to remember that it got parked to extension 100 and how to pull it down. And so this key system emulation, you'd be surprised. Next time you talk to a retailer, 9 times out of 10, when you say to them, if they've got any kind of inbound business where they're juggling customers, they want to see key system.
Okay, I got another question, Matt. As it relates to connectivity and broadband, do you guys support, do you guys sell broadband?
We do. So let's kind of take that as a use case. The answer is both yes and no. So what do I mean by that? Let's just say we've got, maybe this is a Meraki situation. We've got Meraki at the edge, and we've got a PoE here, and we've got some phones maybe right here. Yes, we sell both DIA and can aggregate cable, okay, and cell phone service, across the country. In fact, we added into our offering both the cell phone aggregation, also satellite service. And we do that maybe 10% of all our deals because we're also agnostic to who brings those circuits. And so if instead you would like us to focus on this part and you already got aggregators or circuits and ways you bring the rest of the circuits, we'll also install this on top of anybody's circuits. Now, when we do that, though, one of the services we offer is for $25 a month, we'll take LOA. You give us LOA for these circuits, and now we can be a single point of contact. We can still be a single throat to choke. Let's say you've got some voice problems, whatever, and we log into our system, we log into MX, and we determine, well, there's some problem on that cable system. Then we'll actually open the ticket on the customer's behalf and work that as well. So either you can use our aggregation service, and that's probably about 10% of the time. The rest of the time, usually partners are bringing the circuits. We're agnostic to those, and oftentimes we're wrapping our remediation service on top of it.
Thanks, Matt. I think that's all the questions I have right now.
Okay.
I appreciate everybody joining us. If there's any last minute questions, don't hesitate to email me. My email is Katie, Katie .Vukovic, VUKOVIC @cbts.com. I'm also in the Teleris portal. So if you need anything from me, don't hesitate to reach out. Hopefully everybody found this